episode number 17 of 1 Degree of Scandalous with the one and only Cato Kalin over here.
Thank you.
And I'm Tom Zenner. And Cato,
I'm sorry, Tom. I think we're in London now. Did you see that? I've got... Holy cow. I'm getting secondhand smoke and the fog is here. It's a special episode. We're not in London, are we?
No, we're not, but we did definitely upgrade our pyrotechnics for this one.
Yeah.
You don't have the headphones on. You kind of do look like a rock star. You like this part?
I like this part because I don't have to wear a headset. And secondly, it's because we have a very special guest. We'll get into that in a little bit. But it's always good when we have a live guest in studio.
Yeah, I love it too. My favorite part of that is no Zoom. No internet signal could go down. What'd you say? Could we start again? Pardon me. Yeah. I hate that when that happens. So that is not going to be an issue. Thank you, everybody. If this is the first time you've caught Cato in my podcast, welcome. Go back and watch some old episodes. I think you're going to love every single one we've had. Download, subscribe, go to our YouTube channel if you haven't. Write us a review, share it, because we do have a great episode today. And Cato, it's interesting because the thing that makes this podcast special, and the reason I wanted to do it, is because of you and the fact that you were in the middle of the biggest scandal in the history of the planet, and your life changed instantly.
I agree. At the whole time that happened in '94, I thought I was moving in with Homer Simpson. I had, that Craigslist can really
you have to read the fine print on a contract.
You're telling me I was OJ.
There are lawyers that could do that. Okay, but you learned a good lesson. You've come a long way since then. And our guest today is in the middle of and has been involved in the biggest scandal of the year. And we're excited because we're going to be able to tell his story and allow him to tell his story and have the public and have everybody that thinks they have an opinion of who this person is really discover the truth, because you don't get that from the media. You do get that from a podcast and from people that you trust.
And a really serious note is I know that because in the 90s, during the trial, I became world famous. Mm-hmm. And my entire life was a soundbite. And people judged me. I'd never had a chance to speak. And every time, you would say something to defend yourself, people say he's hiding something or whatever. And it becomes a snowball effect. It kind of rolls and gets bigger and bigger. And then you finally just say, I can't go out now. I can't. People are...
Right, you can choose that to be locked up, or you can say, I'm going to embrace it, which you eventually did.
An extrovert that I am, I had to become an introvert. It was the most uncomfortable feeling because I couldn't go out. People are judging you constantly because of what they see on TV. Yeah. And a lot of it, most of it was untruths. But...
Exactly.
So I feel like I'm a spokesperson, the 1 Degree of Scandalous, because I've been through it.
Yeah, you have. You know what it's like to have your life changed instantly, and so does our guest. So without further ado, let's introduce him. Jason Alexander. You're going to recognize him. You know the name, you know the voice, you know the face. Britney Spears' first husband. Look at this guy. I'm going to say former football player, Jason. You're working out regularly.
Yeah, totally. Like, true story. But interesting, like, listening to the intro, like, God is good, because that's like the soundbite that you're talking about. I kind of experienced that with my experience with Britney and our because back in 2004 when we eloped in Vegas, there was no social media. The internet was kind of barely hitting the scene, so YouTube wasn't around. There was this basically mainstream, and then their narrative.
Exactly.
So it's a blessing that we have this opportunity in the podcast world and the internet world to even really give,
without a doubt,
a voice.
And people think that they know you based on what's been reported in the news. And by the way, we're covering everything today. We're going to talk about the wedding, June 9th. Uh-huh. Jason's involvement in that. We're going to set the story straight on that and wait until you hear the backstory. Wait until you hear some of the real facts about this. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the wedding in Vegas. We're going to talk about Jason's relationship with Britney and his observations. We're talking about a guy that's known her for 35 years. So we're getting into all of that today.
I was going to say the thing I want to get into is, like you said, we're going to cover everything from A to Z, is with Jason, with growing up. I think with a celebrity like Britney, when you grow up with someone, that's someone you can normally trust. I know because when I was, when I became world famous, I relied on my family. I relied on my best friends. Still to this day, my best friends are my best friends growing up in Milwaukee. And I'm sure, Jason, you can relate that.
100%.
Especially when you were picked on. And I think, my opinion, I would think that Britney is, she's very famous in 2004. And I think she's probably thinking, I trust this guy. I grew up with this guy.
Well, look, not only did we grow up together, most of my friends still to this day, even including Britney, we all met at her mother's little red school, which was the preschool there. See, we grew up in Kentwood, Louisiana. That's where we're from. It's just a small town. It's grown over the years, but there was like 2,000 people in those days, And her mom had the only little preschool. So most of the locals, that's where we went to school. That's where we met most of our friends. And that's how I actually met Britney outside of you know, like that's kind of my earliest memories are 4 or 5 years old. So anything before that, I'm sure we crossed paths through our parents. But either way, you know, back then that was kind of like where the relationship started. So and then she wasn't really like ultra famous until 16, 17 or whatever. Hit me.
Well, then it went bananas. And you know what? There's a funny clip too on Star Search. When you look at some of the documentaries on her life, I mean, she killed it at the age of 10.
She's always been talented.
I mean,
what year is that? What year is that?
She was 10 years old. So I don't know. She's 40.
A lot of people don't know this, but my mom had me in pageants. Like we would do the pageants, like dress up, walk out on the stage. I did pageants. Yeah, like so I have like.
Did you win any? Any trophies?
Yeah, I got like first,
any crowns,
second place, like big trophies, man. Like you know, like
you weren't vaping back then.
I was the big deal, yeah. But
you were not vaping back then.
But then what I'm saying is like like I was competing against Britney on these stages, even in the early days, you know, as a baby, like you know, where our parents putting us in.
Okay, send me those pictures. We're gonna include them in our YouTube.
I have to look for those.
Hey guys, before we get going, you know what? First of all, thanks for joining us. And you haven't heard from Jason because after the wedding on June 9th, a lot has been going on in his life. But I want to explain how he's here today.
Okay.
And, you know, I've been in the media my whole life. I know how they can twist narratives and come up with anything they want and then force the people to believe it. And ever since the wedding on June 9th, you know, when Jason, you know, popped into the public consciousness again, I watched the live stream. I saw the video and I go, the media's trying to say this guy's crazy. He's not crazy. He's concerned. That's the vibe I got. And so I just started reaching out to Jason on Instagram. I just sent him some DMs. I just said, hey, we haven't met. I just want you to know that if you ever want to have a chance to tell the real story or let people get to know you a little bit, man, we would love to have you. And I kept leaving him messages. And then finally this past week, he hit me back and we connected and we spent an hour and a half together earlier in this week. And it just seemed so natural. And that's why I'm excited for people to really meet him, see him, hear him, get his perspective. And he knows everything that's going on in her life. He's seen it. He knows how to read Britney, right? That's the one thing. I think we're going to find out that he can interpret a lot that's going on in his life. But hey, thank you for joining us. And I know it's been a crazy summer and you've had a little time to reflect, right?
Like just thinking about what I was in custody for 70 days, so I reached out. Like I just got access to my Instagram.
Custody. Explain the whole thing and then get into it because it's really interesting.
Well, if we're gonna fast forward to what happened, basically, So the day of the wedding, I was detained, and then from an old warrant that was pending from 2016, they basically held me in custody on a warrant. And then what ended up happening was because of the case, I guess the district attorney got involved. It really wasn't Rosengart or even Britney pushing any of the charges, you know, like because they had slapped me with trespassing and a battery charge that with one of the security guards that day, which, you know, basically I feel I was not guilty of any of those allegations. But then after being in custody and being held on a warrant that was basically not a bench warrant. I had been on probation a couple of times, so if there was some type of legal issue, I should have been approached through my probation, and that should have been mitigated years ago. So the fact that it lingered and that it hasn't brought the attention of you know, until now, where it had been an issue, because I just recently found out about this also when I had some other issues.
So where'd you have to go to jail? Northern Cal?
No, here in Ventura. Oh, no, I'm here in LA. So in Ventura County. So either way, they slapped me with a felony charge, and then my bail was super high, and you know,
what do you do?
There was really no way.
Did you know it was going to be about 70 days? Did you get out early?
I didn't. I actually thought I was getting out that day.
So as you were sitting there in jail, I mean, as a day turned into a week, into 2 weeks, into 70 days, did you have regret? I know you had a lot of time to think about it.
Well,
or
you
what
gotta
were your thoughts?
Like the backstory is it wasn't random, you know. So so back in 2020, the conservatorship was still in play. Basically, she was still going to court and having court hearings, and her dad was still involved, and he hasn't been pretty much extracted from the situation yet. And it was really random because for me, I had already started a family. I have a 5-year-old kid, and you know, me and his mother had started a life together for about 10 years, you know, from 2010 or 12 till very recently in 2020. Me and her were basically life partners. We weren't married, you know. I never eloped with her, but we had a kid and we had a life together, and we were you know, a family unit. And so and up to this point, I hadn't spoke to Britney since 2010 or 12. I can't remember what it was.
So it was about a 10-year gap that you talked.
There was like a gap there where I kind of like put it behind me, you know, because I was trying to move on with my life a little bit, you know, as much as I could for the who I am and the situation that I'm in with somebody like Britney, where it's like you never know when. It depended on where she was in the media, if they would bring me up in the media. Or like, for instance, I had this one incident in between those 10 years of talking to her where I wasn't even in the media, but I got arrested for domestic violence with my son's mother. And it was something kind of private, you know, and even went through that process for a year before it even was in the media world, and got out and was kind of moving on. Like a year and a half later, then the media caught up and like found out about it, and then they put it back in the media like it was something new, and I had to revisit and relive that. And that was kind of like the first time where that had hit me that kind of way, where I'd had a son, and I was trying to really like just be normal, you know, and live life without the extra attention, and not really, you know, putting a whole lot of
in Louisiana.
In Louisiana, okay. Yeah. So we bounced around a little bit. We moved around, but basically Louisiana was where we were at. But so either way, like what had happened is in 2020, COVID hit, and I lost my job. I was laid off, and me and my son's mother were separating. Like we were not getting along, and we were going through a separation. And so I wasn't living in Nashville. I was back in Louisiana. And Britney reached out through Facebook. It was through a friend of her sister's. I got a random message, and it was basically saying, you know, somebody we both know. It was just like a beat around the bush message. I never saved it, but either way, I said, okay. I figured it was kind of Britney.
Did you think at that point you'd never hear from her again? Because it'd been 10 years.
Exactly. I didn't know. I was just like waiting for the opportunity, because I kind of had closed the door and moved on for me, because I've always been in love with Britney, you know, like I love Britney, like from the bottom of my heart, like as a friend, but I very much, you know, as a wife too. You know, and what happened in Vegas was more than 55 hours. It's just the way the media covered that situation. But to me and her, that was really a lifelong commitment. We really were in love with each other. We had this connection our whole life, and then, you know, we got manipulated in Vegas with some lies, and then that's kind of where I learned about how the Hollywood control where that is with people. You know, from my personal experience seeing Britney being controlled that way, you know, to where it wasn't really about what was best for you or what was real. It was about like what we wanted to be real for the perception of the people, and what was best for the business kind of thing. And so let me
when you got back in touch with her, when she reached out to
you
via Facebook.
So when she reached out, it was just like we picked up where we left off. First thing I told her was I apologized to her because I sold her out a little bit. You know, the last conversation we had, I recorded and sold that to the media, but there was a whole story to that. And I was just apologizing to her and letting her know, you know, that was, you know, something that she had to understand, because at the time it was financially beneficial for me, and she couldn't help me financially because of the conservatorship. So she had restraints, but she had to understand that for me, this was like an angle that would benefit me and help me. And it wasn't like, it was unfortunate that she couldn't just help me privately behind the scenes, and I had to sell her out that way. And it sucked that we were talking for a year before I even recorded that conversation, to where I had to say, hey, this has got to stop. So it manifested to me even being in the position to want to record the conversation, because there was like a whole year leading up to that, you know, because.
So once she got back in touch with you in 2020, did you stay in contact?
Yeah, no, so it's kind of interesting, because after Vegas, it was like there was a gap after everything happened in Las Vegas. So I guess if we go and rewind, like Vegas, what happened was you know, the way we ran into each other was I was in college, so I was on a football scholarship, And so I had walked on to Southeastern University as a football player, and they offered me a scholarship. And so this was like I had earned this scholarship, and we were, I had already started going to school, and we were in like spring training or whatever. I think it was like anyway, it was like Christmas holidays. So school was out, Britney was home, because like there was a period of time there in the like early years where she was still having her old friends in her life, where like you notice there's no one in her life that she grew, like none of her friends from her past are in her life, and no one's been in her life since this conservatorship except for her mom and her dad and her family. Like you don't see any of like her close friends. Like I know personally, I will just name a few, like Jansen or Laurelyn or Courtney, these girls that she, some of them are family, or cousins of hers, and they are really close. We're in her wedding with K-Fed, and two of them were in Vegas when we got married, and these are also girls that go all the way back to the preschool.
Right.
And so it's like these people are not in her life anymore, and it's like all these other people in her life for the last, 13, 14, 15 years. So either way, it's just like, I can get off track.
Sure.
So much. So you
mentioned, okay, so 2004. We can go back to the wedding if you want to, okay? You're playing football, right?
Yeah. So
and you end up in Vegas. She calls you to walk us through that for people who don't remember all the details.
So what happened was, this was probably like the second year in a row where she, we had all like as a group. This was probably like my freshman, sophomore year of college. So 2005, 6, something like that. She was ultra famous, like she was doing this was like her Toxic tour was being produced at this time. Like she was about to go on her tour for Toxic. So she was working on that whole tour and putting that together. But at the same time, like, every year we would always get together, around the holidays, and it was just a thing, It was just like, Britney's home, we're all hanging out, and this particular the year 2003, whatever it was, Christmas, she was home. We were all hanging out. All the friends, all my homies from high school were like kicking it at her crib where she grew up. Not even her new house, but like the old house where she grew up was kind of like set up kind of like an Airbnb would be, it was furnished and it was like, set up to be a family home or whatever, guest house. And so we were hanging out over there, and it was just like, just kicking it. And then like I had never been invited to anything outside of, something local. And
do paparazzi sneak their way to Kentwood?
Nah, you know what? Kentwood's been pretty protected from that.
Because
I mean, they do make
she's
it
as
there.
big as she's ever been, right? I mean, it's just crazy. When you look back and see the paparazzi, how they harassed
You know why,
her.
though? Because it's such a small town, and the sheriff and the PD are so good at keeping it low-key.
But for you, this is 2004, she's ultra famous, you're playing football, and Tom played sports, I played sports. The team is going, you're a god to them right now.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. What happened was, like, after I'd went in this, and I was actually, very well known, I actually ended up dropping out of school because it was overwhelming for me. Like the attention, like instead of coming back from Vegas and having all this attention and going right into college football and using that. And pushing that through to give me the attention for, an opportunity in the NFL. Young. You would have thought that would have been kind of the way. If I would have had the proper guidance, yeah. But what? I came back really embarrassed because of the way they handled the situation and the way they lied to me, and then just seeing the way the media portrayed me. It was a lot of anxiety, and I didn't take it well. So I dove into like partying a lot, and I wasn't working out and doing the things I ended up needing to do. So I injured myself and ended up dropping out and quitting college.
Okay. Because in hindsight, you look back, you go, because you always want wisdom, and when you're so young and you screw up, like you said, it just it's tough because you've got this attention, and I'll tell you the key is also, and for Britney or anybody, the key is never believe the hype.
Yeah, but if you're thrust into it overnight, it's hard to process that and even have any rules for yourself. You were talking about how you guys were just hanging out in Kentwood, right? And then how did you get to Vegas?
Well, another thing that I want to point out is just that it's interesting, all the control. It's like, like where we're at right now and why we even having this concern and questions and why I even went there on the night is this control. You know, the fact that even with all the history that we have together, regardless of what people believe or not about what I'm saying or my, you know who I am and know my history, like, it's like, where is Britney and where is her say-so in all this? And like, it just seems like, that, you know, it's just really unfortunate for her.
So Jason,
go ahead.
You're home for the holidays.
Yeah.
You're back from school. Brittany's there.
Yeah.
Luckily, the sheriffs and the police have maybe kept the paparazzi and the craziness at bay. So what were you guys doing? How did it turn from that, hanging out in Kentwood, to ending up in Vegas?
You know, it was a few days there, so it wasn't just like one night hanging out. But either way, it was just like, it just got brought up. You know, it was like, hey, you know, she brought it up to me. She was like, I have, you know, we're going to Vegas for New Year's, and I'm taking my family on a trip for Christmas, and then I'm gonna be coming back and dropping off, you know, some people and picking up some people, and I like for you to be part of that group of people that I pick up to come to Vegas on New Year's. And I was like, hell yeah, I want to do that, you know. So that was basically how it was brought up. She had brought other friends of ours, you know, in previous years to LA and to do different things. It's just I had never been invited to go anywhere with, you know, but we were always more than just friends, so I was kind of not really included in that friend zone. So
you've been romantic already.
Yeah, so this is kind of like the first time I think she was not in a relationship, because previously we were always close, even though we both had relationships. You know, maybe we were always behind the scenes, you know, kind of crushing or whatever.
So she says, hey, I'm going to Vegas. Come with. Meet us up there.
I'm like, and you know what? I did. I had a girlfriend at the time. You know, it was kind of like a high school sweetheart, but
I'm going to Vegas.
Britney was my love before her. You know.
Does she know that? Brittany know that you were in love with her back then?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah, we always had that. You know, that was always understood between me and her anyway. Like.
So when did things turn, or when did you go? Did she take you on her plane? Is that how you got to Vegas?
So the top, you know, she brought us to, you know, Vegas in a private jet.
That would make me fall in love too.
Yeah, it was done right. The interesting thing was that after the annulment and that whole situation came, you know, to a close, and they were like, all right, they felt like they had everything signed they needed. They sent me home, coach. You know?
Sure, we'll get to that in a second, right? Yeah, that's the worst. Okay, get us to Vegas. How long were you there before the idea to get married happened?
It was a few, from what I remember. Let's see, it's been so long ago too, but it was like a 3-day trip. You know, we got there like New Year's Eve. We was there for New Year's, and then we got married on the 2nd, so or the early morning of the 3rd, January 3rd. So, and we were there New Year's Eve. So
what was your state of mind?
That's 4 days
at the wedding.
Oh, you know what? Completely sober.
Sober, okay.
Yeah.
Because you have to be
sober.
right at Little White Wedding Chapel. They're not going to marry you if you're drunk.
No, yeah, we were not intoxicated at that point. The whole reason for that is that the trip actually was coming to an end, and I did have to go back to, you know, play football. I was on a scholarship, and I was actually a starter at the time. So like I really had dreams to be in the NFL. I really did. That was like, I didn't think about a plan B. I was going to the NFL, and so that was my dream, you know. And I was enjoying a good time with Britney, living her dream, and she wanted me to stay. But at the same time, it was kind of like, man, I want to stay with you really bad, but I have a dream too, you know.
Right.
And so we came up with this idea that we're in Vegas, let's get married, but it would bond us, and it wasn't supposed to get out, basically. It wasn't supposed
Good luck, right?
Yeah. It wasn't supposed to be in the media the next day, you know, in our minds. It was supposed to just be like, look, we're going to do this now. You know, whatever she knew at the time, I didn't. I was just getting brought in. I didn't understand the control of everything at the time. I was just going to hang out with a friend in Vegas, and then did something natural. And then this team of men in black come in and, like, you know, sweep everybody. Right. And it's like, whoa, what just happened? And now I'm like, you know, then I'm all over the news, and then people are recognizing me in the airport. Now my life's changed, and I'm still processing all this shit.
Jason, did you and Brittany talk about the fact that, okay, we're going to go get married, go get your marriage license and go to the Little White Wedding Chapel? Did you think you guys would stay together? This could last a little bit? I mean, because you can't keep it a secret forever. But did you think that this was a real marriage?
100%. There's no doubt about that. And I believed it would. I didn't know how long it would be kept quiet, but I believed that we could keep it quiet until we were ready. But even after we got back that morning and started to, let people know, and even once her mom and her dad was involved in the picture, and they started kind of freaking out about it, we almost ran off together. Like, Britney wanted to run off together. Like, she was like, fuck this, like, we'll take my jet and we'll go to Ibiza and we'll enjoy a fucking honeymoon, and we won't let none of these people crash our, the vibe or whatever. And I was like, I was so scared. Because it started hitting me, like, and I didn't really, I wasn't ready for this, like, mentally. And they started putting perspective in my head, like, Jason, the news is going to say this. I'm like, the news? Oh, shit. I'm like, okay, I guess I didn't marry Britney. I guess that's going to be a big deal. Yeah, so they kind of started scaring me. And then I was like, oh, shit, let's not do that, Britney. You know what I mean? I don't think it's a good idea that we run off. I think maybe we just wait for your mom to come and get into town and we figure this out. And then the whole thing was they came up with a plan and presented it to me and her and said, look, and they brought this whole idea up about an annulment, and I didn't even know what that was. I never heard that word in my life, and so I was like, what is that? And they were like, look, it just, it says this or that. And then, you guys just
it's
basically squashes the marriage. And
it makes it seem like it never happened, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it annuls it.
But it was under the pretense that we give you guys 6 months to really date. Like, hang out and give the public time to get to know you as a couple, and then we'll give you a really nice wedding. That's what they promised me. And so that made it easy for me to be like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'll play your game. But then they sent me home and then didn't make me part of the game no more.
They meaning the parents?
No,
the
the lawyers and everything too,
Well,
right?
there was lawyers involved, but the parents were the ones that had their claws in me as far as the respect that I was given because of our relationship.
Did you have a good relationship with either of her parents since
you
did grow up in the same town?
They loved me. Like,
both did?
Like, they loved me the day that I got on the jet to go to Vegas. Her mom loved me that day and loved me every day before that.
Up until the marriage.
Up until that day. But ever since since I broke the supposed confidentiality agreement and said, you know what, fuck you guys, you know what, my life's been changed and I have to do something for Jason, and I made a couple of fucking dollars, and her mom and everyone freaked out because it was like, but they weren't doing anything to help me. They weren't giving me any kind of feeling of comfort or helping me through this public process of humility. And my life is changing at home with college and personal life. I can't go anywhere without being recognized. Like, I was just, partying. It was like no help. And then it's like,
you broke the confidentiality
Yeah,
agreement.
like 2 years later.
Were you sued then?
2 years later.
Was that
No,
the recording of the conversation?
They didn't sue me, but there was a book deal that was on the table for like $500,000. It was already a publishing deal, and they sued me for that, and they basically sued my publishers to drop the deal. So I never was able.
When you signed the annulment papers, is that when they also got you to sign the NDAs and everything else, where you wouldn't
listen how they slid that in? So they came in all professional, and we sit down like we're sitting here, and there's a coffee table,
and you're by yourself.
Me and Britney sitting right next to each other, and
was this lawyers. At the hotel? Was this at the Palms?
This is at the Palms, okay. Yeah. And we signed the I guess the annulment and whatever paperwork that was, and then it's all done. The lawyers kind of leave, and then we're kind of done. And then, so I go into the bedroom, kind of like to have some privacy. So once they cleaned the house, it was interesting. Then we all went to dinner at Steakhouse 9, and then we're all sitting at this.
Brittany, and the whole entourage?
Brittany, her brother, the bodyguards, the friends.
Did you know at Did you know at that point you had the world record for the shortest celebrity marriage of all time?
You talk about throwing minute rice at a wedding.
But you know what I'm saying? We ain't been to sleep yet either, so it's dinner time the next day also, and it's like, oh, this has just happened. So my mind's like Jell-O. And but we're about to sit down for dinner, and I haven't eaten all day, and like her brother walks over to me, sitting at the dinner table, already downstairs.
And he's your buddy?
He's my buddy. We're good friends, I'd have to say, I won't even go there. But like we're good friends. We know like we've had a lot of personal experiences together. And he hands me this little bar napkin, and it's got a confirmation number on it, and it's like, we got you a car to the airport, and this is your flight information or whatever. And I'm like, so I'm not gonna eat dinner, And he was like, no, your mom will be here in a minute.
Are you serious? They booted you from dinner.
I was stupid enough to leave without making a scene, though.
What's Britney saying at this now?
I was looking at her, I looked at her and I was like, I almost started crying. It was like it was really sad, because I was like looking at her, and then I'm like, wow, they're like taking me away. And then I looked at her and I'm like, this is for real right now,
Is she in it then, right?
She just didn't say anything. She just looked
at
me.
Did you get a sense even back then that she had no control over her life?
Well,
people were making the decisions for her on everything.
One interesting point is that they separated us. Like when the lawyers finally came in the day after the wedding and everything, they separated us for a brief time, and they got her in a room. And so I will say this: whenever she came back from that room, she knew what she had to do. Whatever they told her.
Yeah, they
told her whatever they had to tell her, and I'm gonna tell you, she went with it, and it was strictly business.
This is when she was huge, right?
Yeah.
World tours, new albums.
Pre-conservatorship,
Pre-conservatorship. It would be hard to have a traditional relationship. It would be almost impossible. Did you leave Vegas thinking we're going to stay in touch? We still have feelings for each other. We might be still in love.
They
right?
kept us in touch for 30 days because of Vegas law. They knew, and I even flew back to Vegas 2 weeks later with a big-time lawyer. Mark Goldberg is his name. He represented Mike Tyson, I believe, in some of his incidences, and he consulted me on like the law. We had 30 days to contest this annulment because of the duress I was under and not really having the proper counsel and the way they came in. And now my life has changed, and I didn't really understand all this as a young kid, and now I do. I wish I would have negotiated something, you know, but. That's why it's gotten to the point to where we are now, where it's like my life's affected, and there's like, it's on me. But they were trying to tell me then, like, look, you need to contest this within 30 days or law, you don't have any really legal argument. And I said no, because Britney was continuing to call me after they sent me home from Vegas. Like, we stayed in touch for those 30 days.
Did it bother you that?
But after 30 days, So then there was I never talked to her again. I watched her get married to K-Fed, all on the TV,
Did
like
you
all from afar, basically. I had to move on with my life, and that it was very interesting to deal with. But
did you know him also or not?
I had no clue who he was, but I met him once, and I did date his ex, his baby, one of his baby's mom, is Shar Jackson. Like, we dated for a couple of years.
That's right. That's who he was with when he met.
Like when I moved to Hollywood, we ended up meeting at some event, a red carpet event, and I'm like, oh wow, this is your Shar's ex, and Kevin's with Britney now. This is perfect.
This should make you feel better.
Poetic justice.
This exactly poetic. This will make you feel better. I just got married, and when I got married, Britney tried to get into my wedding. We kicked her out.
Well, I saw the signs. I saw the signs when I entered the door.
You saw that?
No. If you see this woman,
yeah.
Hey, Jason, does it bother you though that they tried to, almost paint that marriage as a joke?
Yeah.
That it meant nothing. Mm-hmm. To you, was it kind of real? Did you think, I'm leaving Vegas married to Britney Spears? This isn't some stunt. This isn't some hoax.
Yeah, it was real. Of course it was real. I didn't understand as a kid at the time how it looked. I didn't know how it was supposed to look and how it was going to work out, and I didn't have all those plans. But I knew that it was real, and I didn't really care that. I'm always been the type of person where it's like, I don't have I go with the flow. I'm a Libra, and I really just I really just adapt to the situation. And she's similar, but she was already the thing is I told her that I couldn't go away with her on her tour because I was still going to live my dream. So that was hard for me. Like, I could have stayed in Vegas, I didn't have to end that. I didn't have to try to, you know what I mean?
Well, and you don't want to go on tour with her anyway.
But it was like I had a life, and I wasn't trying to ride her coattail or anything.
Right.
And it wasn't like I was marrying her because she was Britney Spears.
If you're a football player thinking you're going to the NFL.
But I had the same crush on her before. Like, I felt the same way about her when she was 12, that I do now. There's no extra love for her because I wasn't thinking, oh fuck yeah, I fucking married Britney.
Yeah, you married her. Also, you guys knew each other. It wasn't a scam because you grew up knowing her. It's probably the best fit for her.
And I'm like, I gotta go do my thing, Like I wasn't like Sam. Like I legitimately had a football scholarship. And
Sure.
It was like,
and it also showed that she was just looking for some sort of normalcy, right? So. A marriage is normal. It's what people do, and she had none of that in her life. Did you have the impression, Cato, though, the way the media portrays Jason, that
she was running from control? I feel too that without her, like maybe. Not really like knowing it, but she was trying to like distance herself from the control because somebody that wasn't around very long, I seen her, when she was home for Christmas. She invited me on this trip. Then I come kind of into her world for a short few days, and I'm very observant. So I'm picking up on Larry Rudolph, and I'm like, who is this guy, and why is he around like this? And I'm starting to pick up on vibes and things, and I'm like, this don't. But I'm like, this is Britney Spears, so I'm kind of like letting things go. But there was a lot of control that I observed.
She's rebelling when she shaves
She's
her head.
rebelling,
all
yes.
the stuff, the shaving head. It's
Same thing when she went with K-Fed. You think she would
I want my own life, she's saying. And that's what she's screaming
and
out.
then I don't know why she can't just come out and say that. She has to go through these type of like, that's the way she rebels, But I don't know why. Like I feel at this point it should be more clear. Like just come out and tell everybody what's going on.
Yeah. From 2004 to 2010, when you lost contact for a little while, how often did you talk to her? Did you see her? Did you go visit her? Did you have any sort of relationship?
During that time, I shut it off. I was done. I was like, I'm putting this behind me. I'm done. I really was. It had been up until then. It had been in my life. It's still in my life now, like it is. But like, it's never done. You know. But there was nothing, there was just that one arrest that put me in the media that kind of brought her name up, and that was why they decided to cover it for whatever reason. I don't know why they felt like it was relevant to put me in the media because it wasn't like I was a threat at the time. They didn't need to slander me. But I guess any chance they got over the years to make me look bad, they've done that.
Well, you're an easy target. You're an easy target. And also, Tom's saying how much he stayed in touch. But, what you went through with the annulment, the parents coming in, making you sign papers, and the family, you're said growing up, you're really close to them. Obviously, am I right that you probably hated them?
I've reached out to the family recently, even before.
No contact before?
Just in recent January of this year, I tried to reach out to the mom and make an alliance because I'm like, what's going on, Because what really got me concerned is January. That's when I came to California. That's why I was even out here, because I was in Nashville. And when she posted the first Instagram nude post that went on Instagram, the first nude she'd ever done, and they put the emojis over her little spots and whatever, and I'm like, it just rubbed me really bad. I'm like, and I hadn't talked to her in a couple months, but this was after she'd reached out, and we'd been talking pretty regularly. But there was a few months that we hadn't talked when I seen that because it's a long story, but she was mad at me for something. And either way, I seen that and I was like, you know what, that's bullshit. That I know she's not in control over Instagram, and that doesn't make sense for anyone to post a nude picture of her like that. In that kind of way, it's not classy. There's something, it does not add up. And at that point, I couldn't get in touch with her, so I didn't know what to do. And I was like, I'm going to California. We're going to go find her. I know I'll find her.
Who posted it?
Whoever's in control of her Instagram, but why they had access to that photo and why I don't even know if I really don't believe she has any say-so over her Instagram.
That's what I was wondering. Like during the conservatorship, did she have a phone?
She told me that she has. She told me that she pre-approves posts, but when I asked her about the nudes, because she did finally reach out to me, even because when I said I'm going to California, I did. I ended up coming out here. I was here. I went, and the day I checked in to I don't know the hotel, but it's in Calabasas, and I checked into the hotel room, and I'm with my friends. And I hadn't spoke to Britney in 2 or 3 months. And I came all the way out to California because she posted this nude on her Instagram. And something in my spirit told me that's not good. And I'm going to go find out what's going on with her. And at this point, I'm separated. And my ex is giving me a hard time. I'm not able to be a father or do anything else. So I'm like, hey, let's go do this. You know what I mean? I'm going to chase after, like where my heart leads me. So I come all the way to California. And I check into this hotel room in Calabasas. And she calls me. Out of nowhere.
So this
randomly.
is June of this year, right?
And I'm like, I'm in Calabasas, right? Like I said, I come all the way out here. Like, how did you? I was like, this is coincidental. Like, you ain't talked to me in months, and you call me the day I get to Calabasas. Like, are you tracking me?
What'd you say?
You know, well, she's laughed.
Okay, but this is this year. This is June of this year, right?
This is this year, January this year. Yeah.
Okay, January this year you came out here.
I came out, and so anyway, I asked her about the nude, and she said it like this. She was like, I know, I'm working on that. And I was like, because I was telling her, that's not good. It's not good. It's not a good look. And I know that's not you. And I know if you wanted to do that, there's so many classier ways that Britney Spears can come out naked, you know?
So this is interesting because you said that the day you got to Calabasas, she calls you. So you get the call from her. You say, I'm in Calabasas. Now, is she engaged at the time? And does she say to you, let's meet up?
Listen to this. So she didn't tell me she was engaged to Sound for 1 whole year. She was engaged to Sound for 1 whole year before, first of all, I found out, not from her. And then I was like, really, Britney? Like, you've been, because when it came out, they were engaged. It was like, they had been engaged since like December I don't know.
So it shocked you because were you in
like,
regular
what
contact
are you
with her?
kidding me? I'm like, all these like me and her have these conversations like we're making plans for our future. Like, I'm thinking Sam's getting the boot.
Like, here, give us some details about what you were talking about.
Well, when she reached out in 2020, her and Sam were just dating. Then I kind of started having a conversation with her for a few months, and then they had that big court hearing in Los Angeles, and that's when I flew out here, and that's kind of where I got reeled back into the media, because I was letting everybody that was interviewing me, from TMZ to the BBC to whoever was there that day, like 20 of them, and there was like thousands of Free Britney fans, and I was there just to support her to getting free from this conservatorship, and I was just letting everybody know the only reason I'm here is because she reached out to me, and I'm supporting her. I wouldn't be here any other reason. Mm-hmm. And so when I did that, and the news started coming out that I was in touch with her, that's when I feel like Sam or her team or whoever was around her started paying attention more, and they got like more involved into where the conversation between me and her changed.
Gosh, weren't you just kind of begging almost internally for Britney to say, no, I want you here, right? Because it always paints you as the guy that is uninvited, and you just show up.
Yeah, did you see?
When we're behind the scenes talking, and you know what, the conversation that me and her have, I feel like is the most authentic Britney. Like, what you get when you get whatever you've gotten from her the last few years, whatever it is on any kind of video or from the court testimony or any of that. Even the court testimony sounded scripted, uncomfortable for me to listen to. It wasn't like she doesn't feel comfortable. I feel like there's a lot. I get it. There's a lot of stress and anxiety and pressure, and it comes off. But like when I talk to her, and it's just me and her, she sounds so comfortable. And you know what I mean? And,
right. She's the girl from Louisiana you grew up with.
And that's it.
And now her stuff is scripted. She's saying what wants to be said. But when I was asking when she called you and all that, did you guys, after you said, I'm in Calabasas, did you guys see each other?
No, we didn't. We haven't seen each other yet. That's why it's so concerning to me, because this conversation has been going on, and it's like we're being kept from seeing each other. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously I want to see her and she wants to see me. Why can't we just have coffee and allow that to happen? And if the meeting ends up to where she just says, hey, I just wanted to have coffee with you, I didn't want to run off together, I would be cool with that, you know what I mean? But like, can I see you? Like, I haven't seen you since 2004.
Uh-huh. Did she ever show anger?
And this whole thing has transpired in the public eye. I feel like I feel like we deserve like the opportunity to like see each other, like give each other a freaking hug. Like, do you understand? Like, it's kind of like whatever the history is we have, regardless if we go anywhere from here or not, or we're just friends. I'm cool. We just want to be your friend too. But like, you reached out to me, you brought me into this for a reason, and I'm not going anywhere, and obviously not. And then there's a lot of questions that I have and concerns, and I don't know the answers to them. I just definitely know that there's control, and that there's people around not allowing it. And, is there, how extreme that is? I don't know.
What about the financial situation? Did she ever talk to you about missing money being gone, wondering where it's at?
She's mentioned it. She brought it up. I think there's some talks right now. I mean, she's still pursuing justice with all that. because she was in a conservatorship for 13 years. That means she had an allowance. That means other people were basically controlling her money. So how, you know, with all the money she has made in those 13 to 15 years, where the fuck is it? She's only worth, you know, 67, 70 million total. That's not even liquid. That's assets and everything. When I know in 09, her, I think Circus Tour net profited like 90 million, you know, so it grossed 180 million. And then you have all these like streaming sales and perfumes, and her brother even talked about all the money that the perfume was making, and it's just like, where is this money?
Maybe you should see what their family's net worth is.
But can you
Not
imagine
only
how
the family,
you know
but
what's
you
going
know what
on.
I say anybody that has started an LLC since they've been around Britney Spears, and they've built their business off of that. We should audit that.
Yeah, a lot of people have gotten rich off her. So this is 2020. It's 2022 now. You had the pandemic. You came to California. Did you stay here for a while? Did you stay in constant contact since 2020?
Constant contact. 2 months maybe gap. 2 months maybe gap.
What is she talking to you about?
And when I brought it up, because I went to Hawaii. Like I went to Hawaii, and I was gonna meet her in Hawaii.
Planned meeting.
Well, it was kind of similar to what happened when I came out here in January. We weren't talking for a month or two. This was now like March, April-ish. You know, that was January, and so I haven't heard from her, and kind of like no one has. You haven't seen a whole lot from her Instagram, and like, you know, here I am. I'm kind of out here like wondering what's going on myself, and so I started to plan this trip to Hawaii, basically, like, because my buddy at the time said that there was like word that she was in Hawaii. And so I was like, all right, well, I haven't heard from her, so I was just looking at tickets. How much is it to Hawaii? I'll just go out there, you know, like. And as soon as I started looking at tickets, she called me. Just as coincidental as that thing in January. And I was like, this is crazy. So, like, I'm like, you know, I'm looking at tickets. And I told her I was coming to Hawaii. And she's like, well, I guess I need to extend my stay. And I was like, yeah, you need to extend your stay. So I ended up buying the ticket, going to Hawaii. It ended up being, I ended up filing a wellness check when I was there. But her team found out that I was in Hawaii. We were supposed to meet. They ended up leaving while I was there, supposedly, and you know, because
so you were there, she's gone.
They left, yeah.
but she was
but
there
I
with
was there,
Sam, and she's like going to another room to communicate
this
with you.
This is the concern. It's like me and her were aware of me coming to Hawaii, and we were supposed to meet. Like I felt like, okay, Hawaii, small island in the middle of nowhere. She could just kind of skip outside her room. We could kind of see each other, like low key. And it's no big deal, right? Like, okay, finally, I'm satisfied, you know? Like, I just want to see you, you know? And that didn't happen. And then it became this weird thing again where I'm like, okay, I went to Vegas and didn't see, Hawaii and...
These trips are costing you a lot of money.
You know what? Luckily, God is good, and it was like, you know, God bless me. So.
Okay, so Mr. in Hawaii, right? So let's fast forward to the beginning of this year and how we leading up into June. Where were you living at the time? Were you back in Nashville, or have you been in California?
Well, so I have a house in Nashville with my son and his mother for a couple years, and then we separated. So I was back home at the family home in Louisiana. We have a big property with you know, now that my grandparents are passed away, we have extra space, you know. So it's I was spending some time there figuring it out, but since I've been out here, it's kind of been I've been juggling some business with what happened. And before I came out in January with an arrest I had last year with my son's mother that led me into having this probation. So I'm dealing with this probation, and I finally have gotten that kind of like settled here in LA or in Long Beach. So like I'm stuck here until the probation's done. So and so I kind of decided, like, regardless of what happened with this conversation with Britney, even if she was calling me or not, even though this was my journey and my like goal was to like follow through with this relationship and this contact that she's reached out to me. I'm trying to just figure out where it's taking me, you know. But at the same time, I'm here idling. So I found somebody to be able to like coast through the rest of the year until this probation is done, and then I can kind of go.
Do you think Britney is following you, like knowing in the news that you're on this probation? Do you think Britney?
Oh, she knows my whole story. She's reached out to my son's mother.
So what do you think she thinks of that now?
She went behind my back and called the mother of my son. Like, I know that they've been in contact with each other, you know. So
you think that Britney's called the mother and son?
So, Jason, this is the first time you've had a chance to talk to anybody, really, in the public, no media until our show today. And, so you get a chance to really let people know what happened. The first thing is, I know you've been in contact with Britney for so long, throughout the last 18 years, but before the wedding on June 9th, when was the most recent time you had talked to her?
So she called me that Monday, which was probably the 7th. See, it's Thursday's the 9th, so 6th or 7th that week. You know, a couple of days before the wedding, she called me. We spoke for probably 20 minutes. Nothing brought up about any wedding taking place, right? And it was kind of a flirty conversation. You know, so in my head, I'm thinking, like, I left the conversation like, I was kind of feeling like, hey, kind of got it good about myself. And anyways, but the way the conversation ended was we were talking about Cade Hudson, her former manager, friend, whatever he is. And I was just bringing up some points to her about how, it just seems like you don't have any friends around, and all you do is hang out with these people that make money off of you, like, and you call them friends. Like, I just want to see you happy, And she was trying to argue why these people were, why it was okay that they were her friends and they made money or whatever. And I was just, I was like, well, I get it, whatever, but you don't understand. Cade gets his business. He gets clients based off of hanging out with you, like it builds clout for him. And anyway, the conversation kind of like she hung up, like either dropped or she
reached out to you. She called you.
But she reached out to me, and that was kind of it. So then Thursday rolls around, and I wake up and I hear about there's a surprise wedding taking place.
First, you knew about it? First I knew about it. Thursday morning, the day of the wedding.
I wake up Thursday morning. The first time I heard about it, I think people had reports of it on Wednesday maybe, but I didn't hear about it until Thursday morning. So I'm like, that's some fucking bullshit. I'm like, I don't even believe there's a tent set up. I just thought that was all show, and they had set that up like months before and took some pictures, and just like TMZ was like, I didn't know. And I just happened to be, in Thousand Oaks. So I was like really close. I was there's a gym there. I was at the gym working out, and I was really close to the area. So I was like, I'm going to go over there, And I knew there was a hiking trail because leading up to this, me and her had conversations about meeting up, and through this hiking trail. And so either way, I went to the house, to see if there was even a wedding taking place. And so I get there, and there was already some. I thought it was security, but he was on the hiking trail, kind of like sitting there, and it kind of spooked me. So I wasn't planning on going live or even going in the way that I did. But once I just kind of went with what was natural, and so when I went live, it's just to protect myself because I seen this guy sitting there, and I just want whatever happened, I wanted it to be documented. So I went live, and when I got up and approached the gentleman, he was like, hey, he knew who I was, and he said he worked for some media or something. I was like, oh, wow. I thought you were security. I was like, so anyway, so there's obviously a wedding taking place today, right? And he's like, oh, well, yeah, that's what they say. I was like, well, I'm going to go see if there's a tent. And so I go over the fence, and I'm like.
You climb over a fence?
Yeah, I just like jumped the fence on the trail.
Yeah, how did you even know where she lived? Did you?
Well, we had been talking about this for months.
Okay, so
this was more spontaneous than anything, right? This was some master plan for 3 days.
Like me and her had been talking about I had been in Thousand Oaks. We had been talking about me being in the area. This is this is 2 years into our conversation since she's reached out to me.
And the guy in the path from the media is obviously also probably paparazzi on there. I imagine he's just not there on the hiking trail.
He worked for like some London press or something.
There you go.
He knew who I was, and I guess he interviewed me maybe years before.
So go to the fence now.
But yeah, so I hop, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go check it out, because I've been there a few times already. And as soon as I got close enough to where I could see the house, I noticed there was a tent, and I'm like, holy shit, there's a tent. They really are having a wedding today, So I was like, and at that point, something happened where I had a choice to turn around or to like keep going.
Crossroads.
Hey, what are you wearing, by the way? You're not wearing wedding attire.
Did you come from the gym and go straight over there?
I wasn't prepared. Like I wasn't like looking my best.
Okay, so you had a decision to make. We kind of know
I
what
had a
decision you
decision.
made.
Like I could have turned around and like said, you know what? If I keep going, I'm probably going to get arrested. But
I'm going for it.
But I'm going for it because it had been so long coming, and I needed something. You know, I couldn't allow her to get married that day, based off of the past 2 years of us and the conversations we have had on the phone, and the fact that there's just a lot of stuff not adding up, and then I have all this concern, and I couldn't drag on anymore. You know what I mean? I'm like, this has got to end today.
Right. So what were you thinking you were going to accomplish? What did you want to do? Find her?
I thought I was going to find
her,
and I thought that at that point everything would be okay with the authorities, because she could say, I know Jason. He's good.
Because on the Instagram Live, you said I was invited here. Brittany invited me here.
We had conversations. Okay. She knows that I'm
Yeah.
not like out here in LA. It's not all crazy stalking or whatever. Like, she's aware. She called me recently. Like, we've had conversations privately. Yeah, maybe I wasn't on the fucking guest list. You know what I'm saying? I came in through the fucking back. But either way, this is Brittany's wedding day, and she's locked in her fucking bedroom, guys. Like, you know what? It took me. So when I decided I'm on top of this hill and her house is kind of down, and they had security on each side for whatever reason, no one in the middle, and their dumbasses decided to come up around, and I just went straight, and so they ended up kind of like a heart, you know, or like an ass, and ended up behind me, and I just went
behind
straight.
an ass.
So, you know what I mean? And they're like chasing me and yelling at me, and I'm like, look, guys, you know, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I knew where I was going. Me and her spoke about, you know, her bedroom, where she was at. I had already, you know, been there multiple times and cased the house out. You know, I knew how the layout of the property was. So basically, I knew when I went in, I had to go upstairs. I had to get to a certain side of the house, and that corner was her bedroom. I just knew that. And so that's what I did. I didn't realize the door just happened to be unlocked. There was no one in my way, and I just went straight. And then, like, I knew people were behind me and yelling at me, but I didn't pay attention to them.
Anything with they got mace?
Well, it was earlier in the day before the wedding
because
started.
I was going live, because I was being very vocal of who I was, and I was very calm, and I was live, that phone scared them. Because if I wouldn't have had that phone going, I felt like there would have been, they possibly would have tried to hurt me, you know?
Right.
But I felt like that saved me in a lot of ways. But getting into the house, going upstairs and getting to the bedroom, yelling her name, and then the door's locked, you know, and like
You got to her bedroom.
The door to her bedroom's locked. So I yelled her name a few times. They're right on me. The security's right on me, you know. So I knew that, you know, like honestly, I thought in my head, because there's a pool house and it's downstairs and it's separate from her house, and I seen a lot of people over there. And in my head, I was like just soaking all this in, but I was thinking if she's not in her room, she might be getting her makeup done in that pool house, because the way that they had her dress set up in the living room, and there was people working on that. And I noticed there was a lot of people working in the tent, getting that set up for the ceremony. And then, like, you know, I got into the house and I noticed that pool house, and I'm aware of it. You know, there's a nice little separate area. I was like, maybe that's where the bride's at. It's separate. It's private. Maybe she's there. So I didn't really try too hard to get in the room. Like, I kicked the fucking door open or something. But I didn't want to be violent or aggressive.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, door's locked. Boom. Let's keep going. The security's saying leave. And they corral me out this side door. And I'm like, all right, I'll go this way. You know, I tried to get back in one time and I couldn't. He blocked me. He had his gun out. And I'm like, all right, you got your gun out. I guess I'll just listen to you.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
And
well, Jason, so I mean, you said you could have kicked the door down, but you weren't there for bad intentions.
No,
you literally
I was there
were there to
just talk to Britney, to find her, to see what her state of mind was, to see how that. I'm actually interested to see how that even looks between me and her.
And that would have been interesting, because it was the first time you would have seen her and
look,
talked to her
she's
in
calling
person.
me 2-3 days
Over
before the day she's supposed to marry this guy she's happily in love with, right? Like, but we're having a conversation. In my mind, I'm feeling like I'm a stud after the conversation. And then I wake up 2 days later, she's getting married, you know. I'm like, nah, she's not.
This is definitely.
No, she's not.
You're Dustin Hoffman in The Graduate.
Yeah.
He's pounding on the thing, going, "Don't marry him.
You're
don't
not
marry
getting
him."
married
it's
today.
like the updated version.
That was
But
the curious thing is why the media worked so hard on making me look a certain type of way when it wasn't that. It's like
How do you? Because they made a big deal out of the fact that you had a knife on you. Is that because you just carry a knife, or what do you talk about?
I got a knife right
How do you
here. I
explain
always have a knife. This knife's bigger than the knife I had that day. I bought this the first day I got out of jail.
Okay.
The first day I got out, dude,
So it was a knife in your
walk
pocket.
around. I'm
You're
on
not-
the
yeah,
streets
got
a
a knife.
lot. I'm not like I don't have a vehicle out here. I've been traveling through the public transportation a lot.
Boy, they ran with that though, didn't
I'm
they?
in Long Beach, dude. I don't know if you've walked down the sidewalk in Long Beach lately, but that's pretty rough over there.
No, Long Beach is rough.
But I'm a construction guy, dude. This is a tool really for me. This isn't even really a weapon, and that's funny that they even branded that as like something like, oh, he had a knife on him, like
That's the lead story right there.
like
Well, that was the perfect angle for them to rationalize
to
you
make
as
it
somebody
look
that's
like I was
crazy,
going to
that
do
you were coming
something
in there to
bad,
injure her,
like
or
I was
or
there
do
to hurt
something.
somebody.
She had to have heard your voice and the commotion that you caused.
And there was a point. Listen, there was a point after they detained me, So the way they got me is somebody came up behind me and grabbed my cell phone out of my hand as I was walking.
Took your phone.
From behind me, physically grabbed it, bumped me, everything. I kind of chased after him. It wasn't like aggressively. And then he wasn't very fast anyway, and I caught up with him and he threw my phone. And I went and got my phone. And when I turned around and picked my phone up, there was like 8 people in front of me. And then one guy went for my legs and tackled me. And then they were all on top of me. And then it's like, okay, this is over. They got me. They're all laying on me. They put my hands behind my back. They strapped me up, and the police are on their way at this point. But I'm laying on the ground. I'm out of breath. I'm like, can I get some water, please? Because they choked me out. Like I felt like Floyd. That Floyd incidents where I felt like that. And I was like, look, I can't breathe. Like, can I get some water? Anyway, they let me up, and I'm on my knees, and I got my hands behind my back, and everybody looks at the window at one time, and it was just like, it was like they're all spooked. Like. I'm like, who was that? And as soon as I turned my head to look, I just saw the shadow of the person walking off. And I was like, that was Britney, wasn't it? So she had to see me at least detained.
Were you able to follow the news the rest of the day? I don't know if you went straight to jail, but
No, I
did
went
you
straight
realize
to
what a
jail.
big deal this was?
So I'll tell you what happened. In jail, they wait me. Everyone knows in jail, like I was honest, like you get your paperwork, and everyone asks what's going on. Hey, what you arrested for? I'm like, I'm just like, well, I fucking crashed the wedding.
Wedding crashers.
Yeah,
Britney Spears'
yeah.
wedding.
You
may have heard of it.
And then I'm like,
Two
they're
movies,
like, let me
one.
see your paperwork. You're like, Britney Spears? No way. Like, yeah, kind of.
Celeb in jail.
But either way, like, so I'm sleeping in my cell, and I get woken up. All the people, there's a dorm room full of like 50 people. Dude, you're on TV, right? And it was like Good Morning America or something. And that was like the week after. And they were showing kind of my live and everything that happened. And the very next day, they had another like exclusive about Sam, and it was Sam, and it was talking about being married and the wedding, and but Britney wasn't there, and it was just this exclusive about how his life's kicked off and how great it is. But they just completely glazed over the day before. That was like me crashing the wedding. It'd be like the first thing I asked this guy's like, bro, what do you think about Britney's ex crashing your wedding? Like, right? It was just like it just for interesting from my perspective, watching how from the same network, Good Morning America shows this like incident happened the day before, and then the next day they don't even bring it up, but they do this exclusive piece about.
What's upsetting, Tommy, Jason, also, this is that
It just makes me question Sam, and like what is his role in this?
Well, Britney could have, with one call, said it's okay, everybody, no arrest, nothing. I would be
clearing my
pissed off.
name
Yeah.
somehow,
So I don't know
because
what
in my
this-
I have this paperwork. It's the discovery package, and
Why
there is like
didn't she?
no investigator spoke to Britney. Okay, they stayed behind after they did the Ventura County Police did an investigation. No one even spoke to Britney. Rosengart wasn't even in the courtroom. He wasn't even filing or pressing the charges. Everything was the district attorney's office, and the only thing that we heard from Britney was Cade telling the investigator that he spoke to that when he told Britney about the incident that day, that all she had mentioned to him was that, he's scary. That's all he said.
Well, George Cascon's letting killers out, so you should have no problem.
Jason, she couldn't call you right now if she wanted to because of the restraining order, right? Or I guess she could
No,
secretly try to reach
she
out
could
to you.
call me. She could call me. And that's another thing is the deal that they gave me. Like they offered me a plea deal. The only reason I pled out with these charges is because they were going to keep me in custody for another 90 days to fight this in trial. And I wasn't about to sit in jail for 90 more days,
Sure.
to fight and prove myself innocent when I could take this little misdemeanor charge, trespassing, and okay, you want to give me a 1-year restraining order.
I have a theory.
But that's not Britney's. Britney can have that, removed. But they told me that we could talk as long just when we do talk that to let her know that this
What's
has
your
been
theory,
filed.
kiddo?
My theory is this, and you guys can agree or disagree. Do you think that you get a phone call 2 days before the wedding, 3 days before the wedding? Do you think at one time that Sam obviously knows, Sam Agasari knows that, hey, this guy is contacting the woman I'm going to marry. I better expedite this whole thing.
So you're thinking lay the trap or something.
I better
But
marry this
he's
woman
definitely
right away.
been involved. There's definitely been text messages from him to me through our conversations in the past where he's like, look, she's wearing my ring, bro. Like, leave her alone. Like where he's taken the phone from her, basically read the message and then actually messaged me back. So there came a point to where I wouldn't even talk to her unless she called me because I knew that the messages half the time weren't even her.
Do you have those messages still?
I have all the text messages. Yeah.
It's amazing. You know her mannerisms, you know her body language, you know her, you've known her for 35 years. Do you think she is happily married right now? Do you think she's in love with Sam?
Fuck
Do you think it's a real marriage?
Not fuck, not hell, but fuck, hell no. Like all that. And I think it's it's drugs and manipulation with fear and maybe some ignorance there with just like the industry and there's some corruption involved in this too, and I'm not making any allegations, but like there's a lot of questions that I have that I'm very concerned about, still. So
well, how about this? What would you tell her if you had the chance? Because you've gone to great lengths to try to communicate with her face to face. But if you had that opportunity to give Britney Spears a message after all of this, even after this summer on June 9th, what would you tell her?
I mean, that's a good question, but I think it's like you don't have to feel like a victim or like you don't have a voice, like, and whatever the truth is, it's okay. Like people support that, like people support. All people want is the truth, and people really just want to feel. Because I talk to a lot of people, okay, like. People contact me from Instagram. They know who I am, and people are losing sleep like over her. Like they have legitimate questions like, is she okay? Like what's going on? Why haven't we seen her? We don't know. It's just not normal for the situation. Like it's so controlled, and then I'm like, those are legitimate questions. I don't have the answers to those, but I feel like Britney doesn't feel safe, and I just would tell her, that. You don't have to feel that way, and that my number's the same, so she can call me whenever,
Do you think there's a part of her that still loves you?
Yeah, definitely.
More than just as a friend?
And as a friend, is more than just a friend, but like somebody that's genuine there that's going to tell her what she needs to hear and not what's beneficial, to them or whatever that she, whatever they're telling her is just what, they want her to hear or whatever, It's like, no one's around that genuine cares, that gives her like at this point, she's made so much money. Can she enjoy life?
Can she have it? God, when you watch the documentaries of her life, she was so amazing, so talented. I love Britney. Yeah. I miss her. I wish whoever has the shackles on her would just let her live her life.
Like, living life, it's always like
so
weird.
I just feel so much pain for her. I mean, I just feel, don't you, Cato?
Yeah,
I mean, my God, you know what it's like to have your life altered. But
I adore
But we got to
her.
learn to forgive, right? And if I was around her, right, first of all, Sam, I would have married Britney in Hawaii on the beach. Not at her house, and I wouldn't have put her locked up in her bedroom as a slave, like whatever happened that day. But I would have took her to Hawaii, and I would have made her on the beach, And I would be in her life right now telling her, just like it wouldn't be about me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't even have an Instagram. I would just go ahead and delete it. Like, I don't want to benefit from you at all.
You kind of know everything that's kind of going on with her life. Do you know where she is on her honeymoon?
I don't even have a clue. I don't know, but I didn't see Sam in the Instagram photos. I just seen Cade wearing her bikini top when she didn't have it.
Well,
on.
it's going to be interesting, to see how long that marriage lasts, to see what happens next. See if
it's
she contacts you.
I will say this: it's already on paper how long it's going to last.
So you
it's
think
predestined?
Wow.
You know,
Why is that?
Because that's her life. Everything's scripted.
everything's scripted.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, we'll see.
She has no control over her life. Everybody's making the decisions
sound
for
as
her.
gay as a $3 bill, and I called that already a long time ago.
Breaking news, maybe.
Okay.
We'll see if Sam reaches out to
Everybody
us.
says that though. Everybody.
Yeah.
I think people don't even know.
Well,
like,
I mean,
he's
you've been
gay,
around
but-
it for 20 years. You know the
Like,
circus. You know how.
she's even joked about he tried to put in my butt without asking. I was like, oh my God, really?
Well, we have a promo now. Hey, watch 1 Degree of Scandalous. We're going to try to put in your butt.
And if anything comes out of this, like my goal is to get Sam in a celebrity boxing match. That would be pretty awesome.
Well, I did Celebrity Big Brother.
You think he wants a piece of you?
He turned down Celebrity
No.
Big
He did?
Brother.
For
So
real?
I'm on your side now.
Okay.
Yeah, he did.
He doesn't want a piece of me, but it would still be fun, to kick his ass and not go to jail.
Make a little money too.
Well,
Hey, Jason, it has been awesome having you here. Really appreciate it. Kato, any final thing, any advice for him?
Well, I
wrap
like
this
that.
up.
I like that Jason already put out the offer for a boxing match. We're going to tape
Oh,
that
yeah.
too.
Hey.
Jason, a pleasure. Honestly, it was great, and I kind of know parts of what you go through, and I kind of know how tough people can be on you, and you're prejudged for everything. But hopefully, this show shows that you've got passion, you got a heart, and you know what you're talking about.
Hey.
and I think people
Exactly.
didn't realize. I didn't realize that people
It's
have
not
to
really
know
about
that you
the.
grew
It's
up
not
though,
even the
with
facts.
knowing her.
Like, it's just about to see that I'm just a normal guy.
You
Like,
are.
Dude,
You're
you know-
real. You're
Yeah,
raw.
you know who you are.
I'm not here trying.
Your
to,
life changed
I'm not
because of Las
chasing after
Vegas and
anything.
a wedding with Britney Spears, and you're just trying to figure out how you fit in this whole thing. And clearly, she still has feelings for you.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know who you are. Bottom line, then you can conquer anything.
All right, so maybe in a week or two, we follow this up, and we'll see what happens. And if there's something that you have to answer to, come on by.
I do. I think it's a
Back to
two-parter.
Europe.
There
Back
you're
to
on.
London.
Farewell.
Oh yeah. Give me one more London here. Watch this, everybody. It's me, Kato Kane in London with Jason.
Hey, Jason, thank you. We really do appreciate it,
appreciate
man.
you.
Thank you
you, man.
so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for your honesty, your time, and sharing your story. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Make sure you download, subscribe, follow us on social media, because we're going to keep you updated on this, and we're going to keep helping Jason tell his story. And because he's got a bright future, and look at him, man. It should be celebrity boxing.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
he's a
dare
tough
anyone to
guy.
get in the ring with him.
Something.
I dare him.
He'll be climbing near a fence. He'll be climbing fences near you. All right, Jason Alexander.
For Kato Kalin, I am Tom Zenner. Thank you so much for watching 1 Degree of Scandalous.